Hello and welcome back to the Excel videos. Today in this tutorial, we will show you how to use if function in Excel with different examples. If function is one of the most popular and useful function in Microsoft Excel. It allows you to evaluate certain condition and returns one value if true and another value if false. In layman language, it is an instruction that checks any condition. If the condition is true, then it returns predefined value, and if false, it returns different predefined value. But note, function only returns one value out of value if true and value if false. Both values cannot be returned at the same time. Let's see the application of if function in diverse situations with the help of examples we have taken in this tutorial. In the first example, we need to find out the status of target achieved, whether it is achieved or not in column D. So we go to D12 and type if function and hit tab to autocomplete. As you can see, if function takes three arguments, where first two arguments are required function to work and last argument is an optional one. The first argument is logical test, which is a value or logical expression you want to test and evaluate as either true or false. The second argument is value if true, is the value that returns when logical test evaluates to true. The third and the last argument is value if false, is the value that returns when logical test evaluates to false. Alright, now in the first argument, we have to test whether sales target is achieved or not. So we ask function to check whether C12 is greater than or equal to B12. If yes, then print completed. Otherwise, not completed, and then we close the parenthesis and hit enter. Function returns not completed in cell D12. Let's evaluate the function and see how it worked and returned not completed in cell D12. The first argument is checking whether the number C12, which is 33, sales achieved of first rep, is greater than or equal to the condition we have specified in B12, that is 38 or not. And in this case, it found false, hence the function returned the value if false value not completed, which is the last parameter of if statement in cell D12. Anyway, we drag the formula from D12 to D16 and finally get 2 not completed in cells D12 and D15 and 3 completed status in D13, 14 and D16. That means only 3 reps have completed and achieved their sales target. So no need to go to each cell manually and check whether it meets the criteria or not and then write. If will solve your purpose and with simple arguments returns to the predefined value supplied in the second and third argument based on the logical test. Now we scroll down a little bit and move on to the next example, where we need to find out the candidate's result based on the scores given in a table along with their names. As you can see, we have already defined the pass and fail criteria above the tables for candidates. And scores above 75 will be considered as pass, whereas score below or equal to 75 will be considered as fail. So we write if formula here in cell C25 and say function to check whether B25 is greater than the criteria or not. If the criteria match, then return pass, otherwise fail in cell. And now we hit enter. As we know that 87 is greater than 75, which is why function has returned pass in cell C25 as the answer. You might have noticed one thing, that we haven't entered below or equal to 75 value in the function anywhere to return false result. But when we drag the formula to the last active cell of this table, function checks each cell and returns accordingly, and we also get answer fail in the cells. But how? That's because in case the logical test does not meet the criteria, which is to check for greater than 75, function returns the result on the basis of value stored in the last parameter. Also, each time when we drag or paste the formula in new cell, relative references gets changed automatically. In the next example, we have to calculate the incentive based on the conditions for sales rep. If any rep has generated revenue above $40,000, we'll get 3% of sales revenue as incentive, otherwise we'll get 1.5% of sales revenue as incentive. Alright, so not only you can return to certain values, but you can also perform a math operation by using arithmetic operators or any Excel function in value if true and value if false arguments and return a value based on the logical test. Alright, we go to cell C38 and enter if function and take B38 and check whether it is above 40,000. If logical test says yes, it is, we ask it to calculate 3% of sales revenue in the second argument, and if logical test says no, then it should calculate 1.5% of sales revenue in the third argument and will return in the cell. And the moment we hit enter, it gives us $1,350 in cell C38 for the first rep, which is a 3% of first sales revenue. Anyway, we copy the function and paste it till C42 and get the incentives for each sales rep. But have you noticed one thing? Rep Steve Miller gets only $600, whereas Rep Danny Winter gets $1,200. The difference is because of only $1 which Danny Winter has contributed extra. And as we are looking for above 40,000 to incentivize 3% of sales revenue to reps, and Rep Steve Miller does not qualify for the 3% incentive criteria, hence got 1.5% of $40,000. Okay, now we move on to the next example where we need to find out the remaining target if rep hasn't achieved the target. As we can see, we have the table that contains sales rep name, their sales target along with the sales they have made, and we need to find out the numbers left in meeting their target if not achieved in column D, otherwise return as achieved. So we go to D51 and type if function and then check whether C51 is less than B51 or not. If it is, then it will subtract achieved figures from target and will return, otherwise it will return as achieved in the cell. Now we hit enter and drag the formula to the last active cell. Now we can see the numeric value that represents to the numbers which are remaining in target to achieve. It means supervisor or manager can only push those reps now who have not achieved their target. Isn't it interesting? But what happens when we skip both second and third argument and do not enter any value in them? So the function returns 0 as the answer if there is nothing in either value if true or value if false arguments. So if you want function to return something, you have to add some value or any text that you want to return based on the condition returns. And let's say you are running an institute or conduct training sessions and you are going to make a batch as per the weekend or weekdays classes. While filling out the student's detail, you forgot to add one column for classes type weekends or weekdays and have only dates on which the training will be conducted with you now. You can do it manually by looking each date in calendar and can make another column and update whether the classes will be on weekends or weekdays. But what if you have got a long list? Will you be doing it manually? Will you be spending hours to update this? Wait, you don't need to. So we go to B77 and enter if function and hit tab to autocomplete. And then we nest weekday function, inside if. In the first argument of weekday function, we select date mentioned in cell A77 and then we type 2 in the second argument to consider the week from Monday to Sunday. And then we close the parenthesis and ask function to check whether the return value from weekday function is greater than 5. If it is, then show weekends, otherwise print weekdays, and then we hit enter. As soon as we hit enter, function returns weekdays in cell B77. Anyway, we copy the formula and paste it till B84, and here you go. In just few seconds, your list is ready with you now. You can easily find out the classes which will be following on weekdays and weekends. Now sit back and relax, because if function has made your life so easy and has reduced hours of hassle. And when you receive raw data from other department where text values and numbers are stored in the same cells, it feels so frustrated to get data in such form, and it becomes quite difficult to find out the text entries and numeric entries if you are not much fond of Excel functions. But with the help of combination of if and is text function, you can easily get to know the text entries and the number entries. So if it is text, then print text, otherwise number. The isText function will check whether the supplied argument contains text or not. If it stored text, function will return true, otherwise false. And in value, if true, we have already defined text, and num in value if false. Hence, the function returned accordingly for each cell. In the 8th example, we'll calculate the target achieved percentage in column D, but only in case of when target is given, because if you try to calculate the target achieved percentage when target is not given, function returns division error. But for now, we'll only tell function to return the percentage of target achieved when target is given, otherwise return empty text. So we type function here and we say to check if any value is there in column B, then perform the process, else print empty text. The moment we hit enter, we get 79% in cell D106, and when we drag the formula to the last active cell of this table, function checks the condition for each cell and returns accordingly in cells. Look at the row number 110, where rep has made the sales, however he does not have any target value, and in this case the D110 is empty. However, when target is given and sales are not made, function returns 0% in cell D109. So far we have used if function for simple queries, but now in the next two examples we will have little bit complicated queries where we will look for two conditions at the same time. In the 9th example, there is a criteria to qualify for the incentive program for sales rep. What they have to do is to achieve their target above 100%, as well as they must have brought the business volume over $18,000. Once these two conditions are met, then only the rep will be eligible for the incentive program. As we have 4 entries here, but in real scenario you might have thousands of such entries where you cannot sit and check manually. Alright, now we go to cell E120 and type if function and hit tab to autocomplete. As we have to meet both conditions here to check the incentive eligibility criteria, we will nest AND function inside if function and hit tab to autocomplete. Since we know that AND function in Excel checks multiple conditions at the same time and returns true response if all conditions evaluate to true. So in the first argument, we check whether the achieved target is above 100%, and then in the second argument we check whether D120 is greater than 18,000 business volume or not. Then we close the parenthesis and comes back with if function. So if both supplied logical tests meet, then we tell function to return yes, otherwise as not qualified, and then we hit enter and copy the function and paste it till E123. And now we can clearly see the final result for those who have qualified for the incentive program. And there's only one rep who has met both the conditions, hence qualifies for the incentive. But in the last and 10th example, we will check for two criteria, and if anyone matches, rep will qualify for the incentive program. And this time we'll use OR function instead of and we'll repeat the same steps we have followed in the previous example. So we take 1000 volume and then yes, twice, not qualified, and then we close the parentheses. As we have already learned in basic formulas and function series, OR function returns true if any one condition is true and false if all conditions are false. And in this example, we want function to make reps qualify if they meet any one parameter out of 2. And when we hit enter and drag the formula to the last active cell, we can clearly see that now there are 3 reps out of 4 who are qualified for the incentive program, whereas one is not. Likewise, you can use if function in many ways at many places along with other functions and can make customized function as per your own requirements. You can also use if function within another if as nested condition, in conditional formatting, or as an array too. And we will be teaching the same in our coming videos as well. If you like this video, don't forget to click on subscribe button to get regular updates, and feel free to share this video tutorial with your friends as well. That's all for now. We hope you found this lesson informative. Stay tuned and keep learning with us. Thank you and have a nice day.